right, John, we're back after 1 month of the Daily Wrestling News Show being back on the air. You and I are back here to talk about what's going on with the show in the next month. So, how do you think the first month went?
I enjoyed them. I don't know about anybody else, but I sure enjoyed them. Waking up every morning just to, remind myself what was on tap for the day, and half the time learning something new, usually.
Yeah. So just to restate, our mission is to what's that right there on the bottom, to teach, learn, and remember the history of pro wrestling with everyone that wants to join us. So if you are not subscribed to the show yet, you can go to Daily Wrestling News Show /links, and you can get your Apple Podcast or Spotify link to listen to the show, which I publish every morning at 1 a.m. So it'll be there first thing in the morning when you wake up. And you hit play, and 10 minutes later, you're done. Quick show. So and you learn something. So it's fun. Any highlights for the month? Any big lessons? Anything that you didn't know before?
Oh, this past month?
Yeah.
I'm trying. Okay, well, let me see. There were a couple of them that I just looking by the titles. I was like, what is that all about? I gotta say I enjoy, and this is the cynic in me. I enjoyed who ruined Hulk Hogan's 61st birthday.
Yeah, of course.
I was pretty sure I remembered who it was, but what match tested the conscience of Paul Heyman? Yep. In my mind, I had a couple in mind for that, and so last month we started talking about it, and I was like, all right, I want to push. I assumed it was either High Incident. Tommy Dreamer and Primetime Brian Lee, the scaffolding match, because I still don't know how Brian Lee fell from that scaffolding and didn't die. Or the night that perhaps they crucified the Sandman and then had to apologize for it. And then it turned out to be my strongest guess and the most logical. It was Born to be Wired.
Yeah, Born to be Wired on August 9th. That was the August 9th episode. Tested the conscience of Paul Heyman. Yeah, it's funny. I think I've told you a couple times when ECW was on, I just wasn't watching it. So anytime I do an ECW a topic, I'm doing deep learning for those, which is one of the things that's really fun for me to do. Is on every episode, I'm either learning or remembering. Right. That's what's fun. So the other thing is, and as we've done more episodes for the coming months, when you go back in time, those house shows were so important. Yeah. And I know you had an episode, I'm looking here to see what the date was, but where you talked about the Bret Hart and Owen Hart Iron Man matches.
Yeah, August 8th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, August 8th. How many special moments in wrestling history are lost to time? We're going to see house shows come up again and again. There's an episode that I have. Is it this month? I think it's this month, where it's like how many times were the Steiner brothers tag team champions? Because it's funny, if you just watched the television show, you'd probably say one time. But if you like go and look at the lineage, the title lineage, you see it's more. So that's one thing. There's also the King of the Ring, 1991, and all the previous years before that. That was all house shows. So as we talk about those things, we really see the importance of house shows. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've also come to notice that the way WWE counts championships and the way the rest of the world counts championships do not always line up. So I go to when I'm writing about something, I knew there's a story that I'm going to write about in November. October, excuse me. And I knew it was the final title run for this person. And I wrote it. I went to Wikipedia, because you can sort by how many runs and whatnot and what date. And they follow the WWE model of which ones they count, which ones they don't. And it was this person's fourth and final run. Then I go back and I'm watching the show just to remember if there was something special that happened that right off the top of my head I'm not remembering. And they say a half dozen times that it's the third title run for this person because they don't count, the WWE doesn't count this, or they're actually WWE did count one run that ECW itself, when it was running shows, wasn't counting. So it's there's all kind of there's little weirdness that comes up, but it's I mean, we're going back in time, and a lot of this stuff is coming from just an amazing time to be a fan in those mid to late 90s and early 2000s, and so much fun.
I'm finding the same thing when I go back and I look at. I've done a couple of shows about WCW when they, like, right at the time that they were breaking away from the NWA, and that caused a branch, and the big gold belt was the international championship for a while, and Ric Flair brought it to WWE at one point. So a whole bunch of and on all those events actually, feed into each other, even though some of them are a couple of years apart.
Yeah.
Flair bringing that belt to WWE caused a lawsuit, and then WCW paid to get the belt back, and in the process they acquired the rights from the NWA to use the belt. So that caused a whole bunch of things down the road with the international championship, which was a couple of years later. So it's some wild things, and it's funny, like I always have said that wrestling is a little bit of a dishonest business, because by its very nature, what are the performers trying to do but fool everybody in what they're doing. And when you start looking at some of the different events that have occurred over the course of time, it really lends credence to that. So case in point, John, I think if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow's episode, no, not tomorrow, next week, first day in September, the who is your favorite Intercontinental Champion. So this is fun because I believe that is the anniversary of Pat Patterson winning the tournament in Rio de Janeiro. Is that what that is? Of course, that's a legend, right? That's one of the many legends that we discuss on the show, right?
Don't ruin it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's when I hope we'll drum up a fair amount of discussion and back and forth, at least, because that one is kind of half. Here's the facts. Here's how it's set up, and then the second half of it, I got very indulgent and just started talking about here's some of my favorite things that happened, in and around the Intercontinental Championship title and this, that, and the other thing. And at the end, you leave it open for come tell us who's yours. Come tell me why I'm wrong that I do like this guy or don't like that guy. Come talk to us.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of good choices out there. Let's see. So that is September 1st. I have the listings up here. If you go to September 9th, I did an episode called Who Did Shane Douglas Beat to Become ECW Champion? And I'm talking about his first run as Eastern Championship Wrestling Champion. And it's another story like the Rio de Janeiro story. It's another one of those things where, I guess I'm giving it away, but he didn't beat anybody. He just kind of acquired the belt at an event that didn't occur. So lots of those things are I'm learning about as we go, because like I said, I didn't watch ECW live as it was happening. So a lot of fun stuff like that. But are there a few episodes this month that you're particularly looking forward to sharing or learning about yourself?
Yes, you already touched on two of the ones right at the top of my list: the Steiner brothers and the weirdness around their tag title runs, the international heavyweight WCW international heavyweight title, because that's another one that I knew that there was a story there, but I wasn't watching at the time because WCW I don't think was even available in my area at that time, so I have no idea how all that came to pass. I know that I know Flair left with the Big Gold. I know he and the Big Gold eventually came back, and eventually everything went back together. But how it unfolded, not a clue. Also, the Greatest 18 Club. I've stayed away from that completely because I don't even have a guess what that's about.
Oh, that'll be fun. So so over the course of the month, September 13th, that's the Steiner brothers. September 19th, that's going to be the International Heavyweight Championship. The Greatest 18 Club, where that's later in the month. Where is that? That's going to be September 23rd. And that's so by the time we're done with the month of September, we'll have talked about WWF slash WWE, WCW, ECW, and in that case, New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it is a bit of a weird one. Yeah, it's a good one for you to dig into, because I'm guessing a lot of people don't have that history. It's a very, go ahead and Google it if you want, but or wait till the episode comes out. But Antonio Inoki did some weird stuff in his time. So
I've already touched on Inoki and his weirdness with the Kurt Angle episode I did.
Yes.
And that was a whole thing where, Inoki's not part of necessarily the story that I'm telling, but one of those titles was weird because of Inoki and his new company at the time.
Right, and the whole thing about Brock Lesnar going out being the IWGP champion and not wanting to drop the belt to this guy or that guy, and Angle had to kind of come in and save the day. Yeah, so it's another, a lot of stuff that happened. It was very weird. So here's one of the ones, and we'll go back to you if you have more. One of the ones that I had a lot of fun researching this month was I have an episode coming up called "What is Pro Wrestling's Holy Grail?"
Yep.
And this was I guess you can't really talk about it without giving it away, but Bruno Sammartino was basically your first WWF champion, right? You had Buddy Rogers, and then you had Bruno for a long, long period of time. Well, Bruno's world title belt got stolen, his first one, and it has never been recovered. Chris Jericho lost the AEW world title right off the bat, like night one, right?
That wasn't gone for 24 hours.
Right. It was quickly recovered. But Bruno's title belt has been lost to time. It's probably never going to be recovered, but what an interesting, it was just an interesting story. So, join me on whatever day that is. It's September 27th, and you can hear all about that. So.
Yeah, you ran down my whole list. I didn't want to go overboard, so I just took 5: the Steiners, the International, the Great 18, Wrestling's Holy Grail, and then the last one. I don't think you're going to fool me, but I can't wait to see exactly what you talked about with who made their debut in a hospital in 1998.
Oh yeah.
Because that is one of my favorite moments in wrestling history. Not necessarily that character, but the whole scene that unfolded around it.
Yeah, and I didn't go the 1998 scene is kind of iconic from Monday Night Raw, where Vince McMahon is in the hospital. And so I argue that someone made their debut that night. And you're right, John. I will not probably fool you on that one. You probably know exactly. Well, I can think of 2 characters, but
yeah, exactly. At least somebody gained a new nickname.
Yes.
But that, and I think I had written about something earlier that week, and I knew it was going to that's where, thank God for your spreadsheets. Because I've got to go back in and say, all right, what did he write about on that day? We don't want to have too much crossover. There's already been a couple of those where something that I'm writing about has to at least reference something you've already written about, but we don't want there to be too much overlap there.
Right. We'll see that when we get into October, because we were working on the October stuff. I talked about Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara jumping ship to WCW, and then you're talking about the first pay-per-view under their regime. So there was a little bit of crossover there. So it'll be funny when we come around to year 2 on this stuff, and we're like, okay, now we got to get we got to zero in on certain things. But the other one that I thought was kind of fun that I wrote was who was the oldest person to take an RKO, and that's coming up later this month. And what's funny about it is I kind of I watched and understood that this person took an RKO in the month of September, but then I had to like fact check. So I had to like like I made the statement who was the oldest person, and then I was like, okay, but I better go check and make sure there wasn't like one more older person that took it somewhere along the lines. But so that's a fun one. And you wrote a good one on Gail Kim, and as we just want to go through here and take a look, you mentioned the September 12th one already, I think, but September 14th, how do you craft the perfect betrayal? That's another good one that I think if people were watching the Monday Night Wars, Monday Night Nitro during that period of time, they're gonna remember the Arn Anderson retirement speech. So Absolutely. It's gonna lead very well right into that one. So
that one was particularly, I don't want to say interesting, but it kind of it sprung up oddly because I started telling you this off air. I think I might have even referenced it briefly last month, but that was a day where I was looking at a list of, okay, here's everything that happened on that day. And I swear my eyeballs went past that moment, the moment, not just the Arn's retirement, but what it leads up to. And, like I missed it. And I'm going, oh, what am I going to write about on this day? And then I searched a different way, and that popped up and went, how do I not write about it? Like, oh, this is a seminal moment in the the Monday Night Wars. So yeah, that one was a lot of fun to go back and rewatch and relive and write about. So looking forward to that one, definitely.
Some days we find a topic and we can just sit down in front of the keyboard and all the words just come right out.
Yeah.
Other times you get a topic and you're like, how do I make a full? We're only going for 5 minutes at the low end, but sometimes you got a topic and you're like, how do I get 5 minutes out of just something here? But but every once in a while you have one of those episodes that just everything falls right out of the paper. There wasn't a lot in September that were that way. I felt like I was doing a lot of research on the Shane Douglas thing and Greatest 18 Club, and that International Heavyweight Championship one took me forever to write because I had to go research and make sure all my facts were straight. So these are some effort has gone into these episodes.
I think my last one of the month, what match changed? It changed the landscape of pro wrestling.
Yeah,
that was one. Not only did I not realize that it happened, I didn't realize how big it was at the time, and there's really no footage of it.
Yeah.
So it was all, I was scanning through about 5 or 6 different articles and trying to understand exactly how it came to pass without completely plagiarizing and, just trying to get a feel for it because it happened in 1972, I believe. So, that's, I'm an old man and that's before me. So it was, I have no visual frame of reference for it. So that one was it was a lot of fun doing the research.
And yeah, a lot heavy on the learn aspect this month.
Sure.
Yes, for sure. All right, John, anything else to get people geared up for this month? I mean, we've talked about a lot of the episodes that we have, and you and I have already started working on October, already started working on November. We're actually already looking at December, trying to zero in on topics. But any other thoughts about the month of September?
For people who enjoyed your barbed wire match in August, there's another, depending on how queasy you are, there's another one that could have caused some people to change the channel in September. And that's one that I did. And it was from the As Good As It Gets. It wasn't even a pay-per-view. I think it was that was a home video release. So
was that the who got most extreme?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's, if you remember it, you remember it. But if you're just running down the roster in your head, you'll never guess who it was.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, this is ECW show, and WWE put together some commentary on this incident or this match. I guess it was a match on this match. and the people that you're talking about who got the most extreme don't have prolific WWE careers. So it was interesting that that they provided so much commentary on it in a
Yes.
WWE like package or video or whatever it was. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so a lot of good stuff in the month to come. I have determined that November is like Bret Hart month. Like, so every time you like look at the history of November and you're like, oh wow, he had all these different Survivor Series moments. And yes, there's the obvious one, and we're going to talk about that at length in November, but a lot of other stuff too. And then his WCW career was pretty, I don't want to say it was prolific because he had a pretty brief WCW career, but
it had moments,
and they were all in November. And,
so yeah, so then you'll get no pushback from me if you know Bret Hart month. Cheers.
Yes, John and I have discussed that we're going to just do a show kind of like this for the Montreal Screwjob, because we just don't feel like we should give 5 minutes to that. We feel like we should have a conversation about that. It was such a important moment in time, one that you and I will both undoubtedly learn, remember, and teach it. Because there's so much to that story. So that's a couple months away. But in the meantime, I'm in the process of reading Bret's autobiography right now. So, and I know you've read that before as well. So, just the very beginning, I guess it was the prologue before chapter 1. Bret's talking about giving the eulogy at Stu Hart's funeral, and he talks about Vince McMahon sitting in the front row, and he has all these colorful words about Vince McMahon right in the prologue. So it was the feelings were bitter still as he wrote the prologue. So
yes, it took him quite a while to work through those feelings, and maybe a decade.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, to this day, I'm still not 100% on board. I do not believe for a second he doesn't want to give him one more shot to the jaw.
Well, we'll save that for November. But John, thanks a lot. I appreciate the fact that you're doing these with me, because it makes it so much more enjoyable. Because if you or I were trying to do all episodes for every month, it would go from being a fun assignment to overwhelming and not fun. So so the fact that we're able to do it together makes it like really fun and interesting, because you can watch a whole show if you need to do an episode, or you can do whatever we need to do. So I appreciate you doing that with me. I think it's a definitely makes it better too, because you have a different style than I do at times. So.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it's fun. It's fun bouncing the ideas off of each other and figuring out who's going to talk about what and this, that, and the other. And it's when it comes at the end of the day, it's all wrestling. So it's something we absolutely love. So
yep. So once again, as we sign off here, again, we are on a mission to teach, learn, and remember the history of pro wrestling with everyone that wants to join us. So please join us. Go to dailywrestlingnewsshow.com/links, and you'll find another link for so you can subscribe on Apple or Spotify or whatever you do. There's also going to be a mailing list. You can sign up for there. And of course, you can get a link to the Facebook group, which you may be watching this in right now anyway. So that said, thanks everybody. We'll probably see you. We will see you again at the end of September to talk about what's coming up in October. Until then, we'll see you each and every day on the Daily Wrestling News Show.
See ya. Enjoy.